we're going to talk for a few minutes about financial independence. Sometimes this is called FIRE, right? Which stands for financially independent, retire early. But you don't have to retire just because you became financially independent. I didn't retire when I became financially independent. In fact, I've got 2 jobs now, right? What I'm doing here at the White Coat Investor, as well as my clinical practice. But I'll tell you what, it provides a lot of benefits, even if you don't retire, right? You don't have to do things just for the money anymore. You want to take a lousy payer because you like the patient, you can do that, right? If you want to spend your time doing something that's more aligned with your life's mission and really doesn't make much money, you can do that, right? When we became financially independent, one of the things Katie did, she ran for office last year. She wasn't able to campaign very well because she was nursing me back to health after falling off a mountain, but she still got elected. And so she's working on the school board now, something that maybe we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if we hadn't taken care of our finances early on. So there's all these benefits of financial independence besides just being able to stop working. So how do you determine if you're financially independent? Well, it basically means you have enough money. You don't have to work for money at any point in the future. So that's typically a number that's something like 25 times what you spend. Okay, notice that it's not the same amount for every person, nor is it a function of how much you make. It's only a function of how much you spend. And yes, that includes all your spending, right? Including any charitable giving you're doing every year, including your tax bill, including any financial advisory fees you're paying. That all counts toward that amount. Add that amount up, multiply it by 25. That's the amount you need to be financially independent. So if you're spending $100,000 a year, it's $2.5 million. If you're spending $200,000 a year, it's $5 million. If you're spending $300,000 a year, it's $7.5 million. See how this works? It's not that complicated. Okay, now that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $5 million is still a lot of money. So how do you get there? Well, for most of us, it takes time. It means putting money away, something like maybe 20% of what your gross earnings are each year, putting it away, investing it in some sort of reasonable manner. And over time, as you continue to add money to that stash, that pile of money, it grows. And after a while, your money's growing more each year than the amount you're putting in there. And eventually it becomes, a 7-figure amount. You become a millionaire. And then it starts going really fast, right? Because your money tends to double every 7 to 10 years, no matter what you do. And if you're still adding more money to the pile, well, it gets there faster. So the first million is definitely the hardest million. And then it just starts piling up. And before long, you look around and go, I don't actually have to work anymore if I don't want to. And then you have an existential crisis every day for the rest of your life of what you want to do with the time you have left on this planet. And that's a beautiful thing to struggle with. And maybe it involves some work. Maybe it doesn't. Everybody's a little bit unique in how they do that. But that's how the process works. And so I think financially independent doctors can be better doctors because they can make decisions without regard so much to the financial consequences of those decisions. And I think that's a good thing. So I hope that's one of your goals out there, to become financially independent at some point. Now, for some people, that doesn't happen until they're in their 60s, especially as they start seeing some of their expenses like health insurance drop off and be replaced by significantly cheaper Medicare. Sometimes it's when they start getting payments from Social Security that gives them a boost to that income, so they don't need quite as big of a nest egg to be financially independent, or they qualify for a pension or something like that. But there's no reason you have to wait until your 60s to be financially independent, especially if you invest wisely, and especially if you have a really high savings rate. In fact, a lot of ways, it mostly comes down to your savings rate. The more you save, the sooner you're financially independent, right? Because the more you're saving, the less you're spending, and you're working now on both ends of that stick. And it doesn't take long before that stick is very short. And so we run into people all the time in their 30s, 40s, early 50s that are already financially independent. They don't have to wait for Social Security or Medicare to get there.
The hosts of The White Coat Investor are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is for your entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.